Imagine being trapped inside a suitcase. You can barely breathe. You can't move. You scream for help. You beg to be let out. But the only person who can save you is standing outside, laughing. This isn't a horror movie. This really happened. In February 2020, a Florida woman named Sarah Boone called 911 and claimed she had found her boyfriend dead inside a suitcase. At first, she said it was a terrible accident, a game that went horribly wrong. But when investigators searched her phone, they discovered videos that would shock the entire country. Videos that told a completely different story. This is the disturbing case of Sarah Boone. Sarah Boone was a woman living in Winter Park, Florida. To neighbors, she appeared ordinary. But behind closed doors, her relationship with her boyfriend, Jorge Torres Jr., was far from normal. The couple had been together for years. Their relationship was turbulent. Friends described frequent arguments, alcohol abuse, and repeated calls to police. Yet despite the chaos, they always seemed to find their way back to each other. No one could have imagined how their story would end. On the night of February 23, 2020, Sarah and Jorge spent the evening drinking wine and playing games inside their apartment. According to Sarah, everything seemed normal, at least at first. As the evening went on, the couple continued drinking. Sarah later told investigators that they were having fun. At one point, they began playing hide and seek. Then came an unusual idea. Jorge climbed inside a blue suitcase. Sarah claimed it was all part of the game. She said both of them laughed as she zipped the suitcase shut. The suitcase was small, very small. Most people would struggle to fit inside. Yet Jorge somehow squeezed himself in. What happened next would become one of the most disturbing parts of the entire case. Instead of letting him out, Sarah took out her phone and started recording. The videos discovered on Sarah's phone would become key evidence. In the recordings, Jorge could be heard from inside the suitcase. His voice sounded desperate. He repeatedly asked Sarah to let him out. He said he couldn't breathe. He told her he was scared. But Sarah didn't unzip the suitcase. Instead, she laughed. Investigators later reported that Sarah could be heard mocking him. At one point, she reminded him of times she claimed he had mistreated her. Jorge continued pleading. His voice grew weaker. The suitcase remained closed. The recordings ended. Hours passed. No one knows exactly what happened during those final moments. But by the next morning, Jorge Torres Jr. was dead. The next day, Sarah called 911. Her voice sounded panicked. She told dispatchers that she had found her boyfriend unresponsive. When first responders arrived, they discovered Jorge inside the suitcase. He was dead. Sarah explained that the two had been drinking heavily. She claimed they had been playing games. She said she believed Jorge could get himself out. According to her story, she went upstairs, fell asleep, and forgot he was inside. But investigators immediately noticed problems. The evidence didn't match her explanation. And then they found the videos. Everything changed. Detectives reviewed Sarah's phone. What they discovered shocked even experienced investigators. The videos appeared to contradict Sarah's account. This no longer looked like a tragic accident. Prosecutors argued that Sarah knew Jorge was trapped. They argued she knew he was struggling to breathe. And despite hearing his pleas, she chose not to help. The videos became the centerpiece of the case. As news of the investigation spread, the public reaction was intense. Many people could not believe the recordings existed. Others debated whether Sarah intended for Jorge to die. The case quickly gained national attention. Years later, Sarah Boone finally stood trial. Prosecutors presented the videos. Investigators described the evidence. The defense argued that Sarah never intended to kill Jorge. They claimed the situation spiraled out of control. The prosecution disagreed. They argued the recordings revealed exactly what Sarah knew. Jurors spent days reviewing testimony and evidence. Every detail of that night was examined. The relationship, the alcohol, the arguments, the videos, everything pointed back to one question. Was this an accident, or was it a crime? In the end, the jury found Sarah Boone guilty. The case became one of the most unusual and disturbing criminal trials in recent memory. Not because of complicated forensic evidence, not because of a mysterious suspect, but because the most important evidence came from Sarah herself. A phone, a recording, and the final words of a man trapped inside a suitcase. Years after Jorge Torres Jr.'s death, people continue to discuss the case. Some see it as a tragic consequence of alcohol and a toxic relationship. Others see it as a clear act of cruelty. But one fact remains unchanged. Jorge Torres Jr. never walked out of that suitcase, and the videos ensured that the world would never forget what happened that night.